Light-headed giant. This towering figure stands impossibly tall above forests, with a faint glowing head that looks more like a distant light than a face. It often appears in wide, empty landscapes where the horizon stretches endlessly, making its presence feel almost like a natural part of the scenery. At first glance, it can be mistaken for a radio tower or a distant structure, but the proportions never quite align with anything man-made. As the viewer looks longer, the realization settles in that the light is attached to something alive. What makes it especially unsettling is its stillness, as if it has no need to move at all. It matters because it represents a quiet kind of horror, where something enormous can exist in plain sight without drawing attention, simply because the human mind refuses to process its true scale. Long horse. Although not a giant in the traditional sense, its endlessly stretching neck allows it to reach across vast distances, effectively making it a creature of immense scale. Its body remains relatively small and skeletal, but the neck extends in ways that seem to defy physical limits, curving through forests, over buildings, and sometimes into places it should not logically fit. It is said to appear as a warning rather than a threat, often linked to moments before something dangerous occurs. What makes it different is the strange comfort it brings despite its unnatural design, as if its presence is meant to guide rather than harm. It matters because it introduces a rare balance in Henderson's world, where not all large entities exist to terrify, but still carry an unsettling presence that cannot be ignored. Bridgeworm. This creature disguises itself as part of a structure, often resembling a massive bridge stretching across landscapes, rivers, or valleys. Its body mimics the shape and texture of concrete or metal, blending seamlessly into human-made environments. People might cross it without ever realizing they are walking on something alive. Over time, subtle distortions begin to appear, such as slight movements or unnatural curves that break the illusion. What makes it unique is its patience, remaining completely still for long periods as if waiting for the right moment. It matters because it plays with the idea of trust, turning something designed for safety and connection into something uncertain and potentially dangerous. Breaking news giant. This entity appears as an enormous humanoid figure, often associated with emergency broadcasts, distorted signals, and glitching screens. Its presence is usually accompanied by sudden interruptions in media, where normal programming is replaced by warnings or unclear messages. The figure itself may not always be fully visible in the real world, sometimes existing only through screens, reflections, or digital noise. What makes it different is the way it bridges physical and digital spaces, making it unclear whether it is truly there or simply being transmitted. It matters because it reflects a modern fear, where information itself becomes unreliable, and something harmful can spread not through physical contact, but through what people see and hear. Cartoon cat giant form. In certain interpretations, cartoon cat appears at an enormous scale, towering over buildings and stretching across entire city blocks. Its design is rooted in old black and white animation, with exaggerated features and fluid movement that ignore natural laws. When scaled up, those same playful movements become overwhelming and unpredictable, as if reality itself bends around it. What makes this form distinct is the contrast between its cheerful, almost nostalgic appearance and the sense of danger it carries. It does not behave like a typical creature, often moving in ways that feel more like animation than reality. It matters because it transforms something familiar into something deeply unsettling, showing how easily comfort can turn into fear when taken out of its original context. Siren head. This is one of the most recognizable giants, a skeletal figure with sirens for a head, standing far above trees and buildings. Its body appears thin and fragile at a distance, but its height gives it an overwhelming presence that dominates the environment. It is often found in remote areas, where its sounds can travel uninterrupted across long distances. The sirens on its head emit a range of noises, from distorted announcements to human voices, creating confusion and drawing attention. What makes it different is its use of sound as both a tool and a weapon, allowing it to interact with people without needing to be seen clearly. It matters because it taps into a deep sense of unease, where the environment itself seems to speak, and nothing can be trusted at face value. Day 17, Giant. This figure appears in a staged photographic style, often labeled as part of a fictional timeline or documented event. The images usually show a massive humanoid shape standing in the distance, partially obscured by fog, buildings, or terrain. The Day 17 label suggests that it is part of an ongoing situation, something that has been unfolding over time rather than appearing suddenly. What makes it unique is the sense of realism created through its presentation, as if it were captured during a real crisis. It matters because it builds a larger narrative around these giants, implying that their existence affects the world in ways that go beyond a single moment or encounter. Behemoth entity. This massive presence is often seen as a distant silhouette, larger than mountains or entire city skylines. Its form is rarely clear, sometimes appearing as a shifting shape against the sky, blending with clouds or darkness. The lack of detail forces the viewer to imagine its true size, which often feels far greater than what is visible. What makes it different is the scale of uncertainty it creates, where the mind fills in the gaps with something even more overwhelming. It matters because it represents the limits of human perception, showing that some things are simply too large to fully understand or even properly see. Highway giant. This entity appears along roads and highways, often mistaken for distant terrain, industrial structures, or large signs. Drivers may notice it briefly while traveling, only to question whether it was ever there at all. As the distance changes, its shape becomes clearer, revealing something far larger and more organic than expected. What makes it unique is how it interacts with movement and perspective, using distance to remain hidden until the last possible moment. It matters because it turns ordinary travel into something uncertain, where even familiar routes can lead to encounters with something completely unknown.